Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mark's Backyard Birds, the July 2025 Wild Bird Update Edition. And we can welcome everybody in. I know it always takes a few minutes to get in here, but I know people are, this is the time of year for vacations. And of course, 4th of July is tomorrow. So I had some people who contacted me, said they had family coming in. They weren't going to be able to join us tonight, things like that. I understand. It's a busy time. And the hot weather is definitely affecting our bird feeders. I know people are getting discouraged with the number of house sparrows and house finch babies are eating them out of house and home, things like that. So I definitely see that, understand if you've got things going on. I see somebody that had something going on. I see Carrie has joined in. Carrie, fresh back from her vacation. They were in Ireland. That was really cool. 50 new birds.
Welcome back, Carrie.
There's my producer wife and my CFO, everything. Melanie over here today. I am Mark McKellar. I'm the owner of the Backyard Bird Center in Kansas City, Missouri. If you've never joined us, welcome. I thank you for joining in. And of course, all you regulars, it's starting to chime in over here. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's hot. It really is hot. The reminder, of course, we are live here in Kansas City, Missouri, so we're right in the heart of the country. And when we ask you, when you join in, would you please let us know where you're joining in from, what part of the country? A lot of people just do the city and state, whatever you can. That helps me to. Hey, Kurt, another one back from Ireland. Welcome. He's down the street there. Ariana from Arizona. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of baby birds of the feeders. Yeah. So if you let us know where you're checking in from, that really helps me to answer questions about north, south, east, west, that kind of thing.
That was Jimmy from Tennessee.
Jim from Tennessee. Welcome in, Jim. Absolutely. I see. Hi, Ellie. I see you're here. And I know I don't know if the Royals play tonight. Do they? I'm sure they're playing somebody. No, they're playing in Seattle tonight, so they're later. So Ellie might watch us the whole time tonight. She usually jumps off when the Royals are on and then jumps back in or watches the rest of it later. Hi, Sandy from Kankakee, Illinois. Yes, Melanie was gone the last live, but she was in North Carolina and settling up things with her mother's estate. And so I guess I did okay. I mean, I was a little flustered. I didn't get Instagram going like I should have, and a couple things there. But hey, that's when there's a lot of things to click and go right here. So yes, I'm so happy to have her back for more than one reason. Rick from North Carolina, you got the sugar fund. Yeah, you can see why people. It was the Patton House in Southeast Arizona. They used to keep a coffee can with a hole cut in the lid on the fence, and it said coffee fund donations are welcome. And people, when they would come, they'd go in the backyard and sit and watch the hummingbird feeders. They would drop money in that coffee fund because, man, they went through tons of sugar. I understand where you're coming from. All right, Jim K from Minneapolis. So we got a Jim E from Tennessee, a Jim K from Indianapolis, Minneapolis. Sorry. All right. Let's see. Why do house sparrows hang on a wall? I mean, on the top of the wall, they perch to rest and loaf. I'm not sure. Hey, Boston guy, welcome in. Yep, one of our real regulars. If only we had 1/10 of the number. Yeah, right. Exactly. You guys have a ton of hummingbirds. And of course, we're going to talk about hummingbirds first. They're first on the agenda tonight. There you go. Not till they're playing in Seattle. That's right, Ellie. You did well on your own, Mark. It'd been good to see Melanie. It is. And Sophie wouldn't help me last week, and she wouldn't help us tonight. She decided I wanted to stay upstairs. So I was hoping she'd make an appearance, but she has a mind of her own. Hi, Lisa. Mark, forward to list. Thank you. Thank you so much. We have had so many people come in the store in the last, especially 3 weeks, that are finding us via the YouTube streams. And and the videos, and they're like, "Gosh, I just lived down the road and I didn't know you're here." And one people driving from like Topeka and some ports, hour and a half, Joplin, which is well down south. They drove up here like, I really love those videos. I want to come in and support you, and that it's flattering. It really is great. Hey, Lou. The great job. Thank you. Oh yeah, the king. Lou was the one who recommended the Kingfisher profile that I did. That's right. All right, W. Moody. Hello from Red Hills of South Georgia. A lot of clay down there in that part of the world. On the side of the wall. That's interesting, Ariana. I don't know. I mean, it's just easier for them to see. Yeah. Birds cling. Now, you used to seeing things like Carolina wrens hang on the sides of the walls and chickadees hang on the side, things like that. But you're pushing 1.5 gallons. Yes, they are going through it right now. All right. Hi, Shirley from Texas. Welcome in. Melanie, all right, do you know what these crown icons are on the chat? I'm having her check into that. Let's see if she can figure it out.
Yeah, just give me a minute.
She's looking it up, that's for sure. Hi, Jen G from Maine. I love Maine, by the way. All right, absolutely. So, again, like I said, I don't expect a big crowd tonight. Time of year and the night before 4th of July, and I almost changed it, but I didn't want to mess the pattern up too bad, so we just kept it going. So we're going to jump in here and start talking, and we get all your questions. And hello, Tim from Kansas City. All right, welcome in. All right, let's see. Yeah, big storm a couple nights ago. Yeah, it can get awful sun-baked and hard down there. I know that for a fact. But yeah, the hummingbird feeders get crazy busy before a thunderstorm. You're right. All right, well, let's jump in with hummingbirds. It's July, and obviously it's very early July, but hummingbirds are always a topic in summer, and lots of questions. I know that in the store, lots of questions being generated. And one of the things I wanted to remind folks of, we always talk about again, here in Kansas City, our pattern for the hummingbirds, the ruby-throated hummingbirds, the only ones we have that nest here and points east. And people ask me, did they nest more than once? And the answer to that is yes, they can. A lot of that depends on your latitude. Further to the south, they probably are nesting a second time, whereas if you're to the north, probably not. We're right in the middle of that, and so there could be a second nesting cycle in our area. But we are expecting juvenile birds to start showing up anytime. And I did have somebody the other day told me that they had 6 different kinds of hummingbirds at their feeders in North Carolina, and it's so confusing for folks because we know there's only one species there, but the plumage variances of them really fool people. The adult males with the red gorget, the red throat, and the bright green backs, the adult females, the bright green backs with the white throat, and then the juvenile birds start to show up, and they can look in many different shades of the gray and green on their back. This is a juvenile bird. I don't know if you can see it well enough, but you can almost see gray striping on his back. And we know that he's not molted in his full adult plumage. And people say, I've got black ones, and I have the red ones. And I think, and what, remember that color from the gorget is that refraction of light, the bending of light off those feathers. So it looks totally black. This when it may be facing this direction, but as soon as it tilts the sun angle, all of a sudden it starts to glow red. It looks very, very bright red. And of course, in low light, because the lack of the sun, it can make them look really dark. So while they look different, and you can also the size variation in ruby-throated hummingbirds from small to big it varies a lot, and individual variation in the bird. So a small bird's not necessarily a young bird, but the large birds can also be a young bird. So it's hard to differentiate that. But know that for any other species of hummingbird to be in the eastern U.S. this time of year is really rare. Now, later in the fall season, when they're migrating south, you get rufous hummingbirds in the east, and even sometimes the Annas or something like that might show up in the southeast. But this time of year, it really is just those different sexes and different plumages that people are seeing. Now, the little teeny tiny hummingbird that people report all the time this time of year are moths, the clear wings moths or the sphinx moths. And believe me, I do not know the different species, and I know they become tobacco. They come from tobacco hornworms, the caterpillars that they when they pupate, they become the moths. They hatch out and they and they're out of their cocoons, and these moths, and they look and act just like hummingbirds hovering over flowers and dipping that proboscis into the to get the nectar, and it really fools people. They they call, I got this tiniest hummingbird I've ever seen in the flowers, and they hover and their wings beat their wings so fast. And of course, the clear wing moths, which do have clear panels in their wings, I can see people get fooled all the time. So if you think you've got a tiny little hummingbird, see if it's got antennae, because hummingbirds don't have those antennae. They can easily separate them out, but they do look fuzzy, and they hit your flowers. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's see. Hummingbird questions. Let me see. Let's see.
Do you want to know? I posted the answer. It says it's new. It's for top fans.
You're a top fan, Sandy. That's where that crown comes from. I only just looked it up. Absolutely.
And look, this is new. So I can go here and it tells the top people.
Oh, wow. How about that?
It's based on interaction.
Yeah, she's found a chart that shows the top fans by interactions. People who comment, and also I don't know what else included with that, pictures, anything like that. So when you ever go outside, house sparrows show up, and the northern mockingbird show up too.
I think she's just telling you.
Yeah, that they are both very. The word is commensal with man. They live around people. They are almost dependent on human habitation, and so that makes sense for both of those birds. Way to go, Sandy! Absolutely, and Sandy, your pictures are awesome. I'm gonna, you shared that link to those catalogs or whatever they're called, folders you have, and boy, they're going to be very, very helpful in the future too. But I definitely have used them.
Did you do that one?
Kind of get lost over here. Andy from North Carolina, hummers being spoiled here, and with other birds loving bird bass. Yes, and and you know me, if you're a regular watcher, they call me Captain Water. And there's no way that I am not going to talk about do any program without mentioning water. And with the heat, did y'all see my video I did about how birds deal with excessive heat? I posted that just on a week or so ago, I think. But me, I always promote bird baths. A source of fresh, clean water, a reliable source of water, is so important to birds. And this time of year, we talk about unfrozen water in winter. Well, this time of year is hot, and it has really been hot here. And in that, the message in that video is they have all these adaptations, their body temperature being 105, and they face the sun whenever in the hot weather and cold weather. They turn their backs to the sun to absorb heat better. So they do lots of things in their lives to help deal with heat and cold. But the things that you can do to help birds survive these hot stretches is providing water and providing shade. Shade's important, and in a habitat, whenever it's really, really hot, they're not going to spend a lot of time out in the sun if they don't have to. So, but bird bass, I love this picture of this tufted titmouse who is obviously just completely submerged himself and is shaking off or getting ready to shake off. But birds, if nothing else, when they're hot, if they're not in the bird bath bathing, they'll stand in water, because that water helps them remove some of that excess heat through the bare skinned legs and feet. And it really helps them to get rid of some of that excess heat. So, yes, I can't go a whole program without not talking about providing water. Let's see. You've never seen a northern mockingbird. That's interesting, Sandy. I know, they're a southern bird, and I know, I know in Pennsylvania when I was there in Pittsburgh, this is years back, mockingbirds were rare sightings in the Pittsburgh area because they truly are a southern bird, and they get really hurt by cold winters. So that's interesting that you've not had them up that far.
I think it's Jan right above it.
Hi, Jan. From down south in the city here. Welcome in, all bird lovers. Ooh, my boys had one of those moths when they did entomology for Voorhees. That's exactly right. They are more common than you think. If you just keep your eye out for them around, flower beds, and I know out at the Legends Shopping Center, I took pictures of one out there around a flowering pot, in the walkways of the shopping center, and it was one hovering around there. They show up. Yes, the misters. Yeah, right, Carrie, for sure. I almost put the picture of the mister in, but I only had room for 10 slides, so I didn't get one in there. My hat reservoir. Somebody commented on one of my my water videos the other day that they thought I was wrong about clean water for birds because birds drink out of gutters, they said. And my reply was, yeah, but they don't typically poop in the gutters, and it stands, and it sits in the pool. And but people are gonna do what they think. That's fine. We have 45 different clematis vines. Oh, wow. That's a lot, Rick. Yeah. Oh, they absolutely love that. I'm sure they do. After I watched and shared your video about how birds and watch the robin lay down in rocks with his wings spread open to cool off. Absolutely. They anything to transfer that heat out. Their feathers are great insulators, so they have to do that. And if they can make, especially female robins that have the brood patches, for the eggs, man, they'll lay on concrete and like I say, cool rocks that are cool, and that'll help dissipate some of that heat. Good observation. The pictures in the Facebook community group. Yeah, the Facebook community. Melanie will put a link to a Facebook community group, and that's the place to share pictures. All right. I've seen a mother monkey. Yeah, Lisa, that's more expected up as far north as you are. Yeah, yeah. Or yeah, that's right. Somebody said that to me one time that Toronto, Canada was the same latitude as Sacramento, California. And boy, that puts into perspective, you don't think about Canada being that far south. But yeah, certainly. What is a hat reservoir, Lou? That's a good question. Yes, sir. Bird bass. Look, they're refreshing a couple times a day. Absolutely. They're the key to life. Oh, okay. And the ant moats, that makes sense. Yes, they do use the ant moats and nectar protectors as their private little personal bird baths and sources of water. Yep. Well, hi, James. Welcome in from New Jersey. All right. All right, so we got the hummingbirds. Now I'm gonna move on to a very, very topical bird right now, which are the Baltimore Orioles. Exactly. Well, the Baltimore Orioles are just fledging. We've got some people reporting they're young. Now, you guys south, I'm sure you've already had them. But they only nest once. Baltimore Orioles and Orchard Orioles. They come in, make the nest, and go. I talked about how the Orchard Oriole is thought to be like the shortest spanned bird in North America. They only come in and they nest and they get out of here. They're gone. So they spend the least amount of time really in North America of all those migrants that come back and forth. Well, the Baltimore Orioles, they're bringing their babies in now, and they're teaching them, this with the free food source of the jelly. And remember, the mealworms are far more nutritional for them. And, that's why we ask you to have mealworms out too, to help them with the babies. But when they come in, the adult males especially, they're going to spoil the youngins. Here's the sweet stuff. Here, take this. But the adult males don't hang around very much longer. About in Kansas City, our adult male Orioles are pretty much all gone by mid-July. Now the females will last longer, and then the babies are the ones that are reluctant to leave, and they'll stay a little bit longer, and until their bodies really tell them they got to go. And then, of course, what I want you to remember, because people are going to call me and say, "Wait a minute, I had the last week of August, I had Baltimore Orioles." Yes, those typically are northern birds that nested up and Elisa's way and Michigan and Minnesota and those areas up there, and they're coming through later because they started so much later in the north than they did here in points to the south. So we will see a resurgence of Oriole sightings at your feeders if you left your jelly out, especially later on. Now, could you have Orioles that are there between now and then? Yes. I mean, there are some of the young birds are very reluctant to migrate. They're new at the game. They don't know what's going on, but eventually their bodies, the changing of day length, the daylight getting shorter, it triggers it in their bodies. It's time to go. And then it's all about winds from the north helping them push them to the south. So the Baltimore Orioles are really right now. People are seeing them. Our jelly sales are resurging right now at the store.
Lisa,
what I meant, it does make sense that I haven't seen them. Oh yes, absolutely. Yep, definitely. Yeah, that far north. It's, I remember I was bird watching in Duluth area, Minnesota. I was at a business meeting for the Nature Conservancy, and I went bird watching, and I looked up on the rare bird line hotline. There wasn't the internet back then. They were recordings on the phone you called, and on the rare bird hotline they were reporting a cardinal in a neighborhood in Duluth, Minnesota. And that it's a southern bird. And now over time, these birds work their way north, and I think I'm assuming they're fairly common in Minnesota now, but back then it was a rare bird, and that's the same, mockingbirds, same thing. But I think mockingbirds and Carolina wrens are picture birds of southern birds that can keep pushing north, but then they get hit hard by a harsh winter stretch and their numbers decline, and it takes them a while to build back up. Where cardinals, being seed eaters, as long as they can find bird feeders and frozen water, they can survive those winters a bit better.
James,
Still,
did you tell him about our neighbors have them? About our backdoor neighbors?
Yeah. James, I know you're for that, or you're going to get them eventually. I tell you, you try everything, and in our house, what Melody's reminding me of to tell you is our house, the back of our house, and we were in a complex of townhomes, and we have not had a single Oriole in 2 springs and summers here at our unit. I have customers who live in units that are we can see their houses, but they have thicker trees. They have bigger trees behind their house, and they have Orioles, but they have never come to our yard. I put oranges out, mealworms out for the bluebirds. I have the jelly out in the spring. I've only heard one day. And it's frustrating. You wish there was some magic that you could snap your fingers. Yep. Your finger had been there since April 28th. Sandy's rubbing it in, James. Yeah, she's got good Oriole numbers. Hi, Andrew. Welcome in. I know you're a little bit late today, probably.
Thank you for being a member.
Thank you, Andrew, for your continued support. He's a member of the channel for 10 months now. That's awesome, Andrew. Yep. Yeah, they've worked their way up there. I bet they weren't when you were young. I don't know how many years you've been seeing them, but it's really, really challenging for these birds. And like I said, I think especially with bird feeding and bird baths, they can survive now. And have been soaking dried mealworms. We were with Mama. They're still gobbling them up. Absolutely. And myself, I used to love watching their live cargo shit, kind of like ship cam. Oh, I love it. I tell you, I love bird watching in the Duluth area. Especially in the fall, I love going up there in like late September, early October to Hawk Ridge. So many great birds. So I like spots up there. Carolina wrens, but no mockingbirds. Merlin hears them a lot, but no, it isn't an accuracy. Yeah, right. exactly. Yeah. Like I said, Merlin makes its mistakes, and as long as people accept that, then it's not infallible. They always want food, Ariana. The phrase "eats like a bird" just means they eat all day. They're opportunistic feeders, and when food is available to them, unless they have just consumed a lot of food, but they are, especially for mockingbirds, they're not going to turn down a free insect this time of year, especially. So they will. They eat pretty much all day. It took 4 years to get your Baltimore Oriole, Sandy. See, James, it's not 2 years. You still got time.
He's neck and neck with us.
He's
two,
what?
2 years. I said he's neck and neck with us.
Yeah. We're Thompson Park, 3 miles, and head to Heart. Yep. You are determined. Absolutely. Remember, they like tall trees, James. So looking if you got cottonwoods in that park, sycamores near rivers or streams, things like that. That's where you're more likely to be. But there'll be in oak trees and elms and things like that too. But I associate them with wet trees like cottonwoods and sycamores. All right, Tom Korg. Hey, Mark. Laura from Birmingham, Alabama here. I ordered a water wiggler from your store for my bird bath and received it last week. It made a difference immediately. Excellent. And it makes a difference with mosquitoes. People are so worried about mosquitoes. I've heard so many comments about this lately. But yeah, that water wiggler, agitating that water visually, it's a huge attraction to the birds. But it also keeps the water tension broke up so the mosquitoes can't lay their eggs in your bird bath. Awesome.
I just posted it in the comments, and Sophie's screaming.
Two bluebird houses that have been nest with grass with a divot in the center back out, but never been occupied. Did go the first time. Jim, hey, boy, you sounds like you're doing things right. You got it facing east, southeast. This time of year, not all bluebird houses are created equal, but bluebirds will nest in just about any structure that's provided for them. Now, if it's very hot, if they get an all day sun, that may discourage them. In the spring, if it's too shady and cool, they may not get. But you just have to wait. Have to be patient. Like I said, in my old house, it took 6 years before my bluebirds nested in that box. I had chickadees like 3 years in a row, and finally they moved in and they took to it. This house. The second day that bluebird house was up, bluebirds were landing on it and taking in nesting material. You just never know. I checked the other day. I have 4 babies and 1 unhatched egg in there, so they're going to be fledging probably next week, late next week, I think. So it's so rewarding, and I provide mealworms for them, and hopefully they're going to be successful. The northern house friends have taken over my bag. Yeah, are full of twigs. Yeah, Jane. I don't know how close those boxes are together, but my house wren program about how the male will fill all those boxes that are close together with sticks, and he won't let anybody else nest in them. They are super territorial birds. He'll use one to sleep in at night as a bachelor pad. She's got the eggs in the other box, and those other ones, he just won't allow anybody in there. It's crazy. They're feisty little youngins. All right. See, Melanie posted the water wiggler link. Uh-oh. Looks like somebody's coming to put in a. Let's get the camera back up here. Sophie, the producer dog. There she. Yeah. Tell everybody, say hi. Yeah. She has a lot to say, as you might say. Take your time. The market July to August starts again in October to June. Yeah, they're common in your area, that's for sure. Absolutely. I love the water wiggler. It's a great little product. My squirrels have conquered the raccoon baffle. Oh my God. Jennifer, I'm curious, how are they jumping over it? I have never had a squirrel climb up one of my raccoon baffles. If you've got the raccoon baffle suspended so that the bottom, like 2 feet of the pole, and then the raccoon baffle up, it's tucked right up underneath the your house or the feeders underneath there. That's how I suspend them. And boy, now again, air attack, if they can climb up on a bird bath and jump on top of this raccoon baffle, I've seen them do that. And of course, limbs and things like that, jumping. But man, that's frustrating if they're beating a raccoon baffle. Fire ants, oh, terrible, terrible animals. And particular birds and Indian that eat them. I don't know. I don't think so. I know that somebody posted on my bobwhite quail, the decline in quail, that in North Carolina, he was in North Carolina, that the fire ants are terrible on the net ground nesting birds. I mean, they just swarm them, and it's terrible. Man, as much as I hate using poisons and the other methods to get rid of pests, fire ants are a really unique situation. They have moved up in through the country, through North America, and they're a challenge. Absolutely. You might want to contact your local agriculture department and get recommendations from them. They'll tell you what's approved there and what they recommend in your area. I know my son got stung by a couple of them in North Carolina a few years ago. Man, they are painful.
He was little.
He was a little guy. Mark had eastern bluebirds in winter. James, I don't know how strong the wintering population of eastern bluebirds up in your area. I just don't know. They are in the Midwest here. We have a lot of them in the winter, and the bird bath this winter was really great for them. But hey, we're in the same boat when it comes to the Orioles. Thank you. And she knows it, as we say. She is a sweet girl. She's 16, going to be 17 in a few months. Yeah. Everybody's saying hi, Soph. Now she's gotten impatient. Melanie's taking her back upstairs. I don't even bother with the bluebird boxes. I never have bluebirds in my yard, and never will. My yard is wrong. Hang out in large grassy areas like parks and yeah, they like the short grass, park-like atmosphere. Like say golf courses. That if there were insects available, that would be perfect. But scattered trees, open short grass. Sometimes I saw somebody send me a picture. They had mounted their bluebird box and all around it was really tall grass. And I said, I doubt you're going to get bluebirds use that box. They shy away from that. I like that short grass in case the babies fly out too early and they can find them on the ground and keep giving them bugs until they can fly. They don't like that tall grass around their nest boxes. So everybody's still saying hi to Sophie. She's a mess. Shirley. It's like 4 feet off the ground. They are wrapping around and grab the top, which launches them. It's crazy. Absolutely. Now, this is a raccoon baffle that's like 8 inches or 6 inches round and then maybe 4 feet long. Wow. God, those are some. I don't want to mess with those squirrels for sure. Molly did see a flicker. Yep. Nice close up. One of the things we're talking about is just how boring the bird feeders are right now. And when I say boring, now I know a lot of you are going to maybe push back on that, but I was trying to help a guy today who he's just so frustrated because with all the house finches and all the house sparrows, hardly any birds can get to his feeders. And he's got cage feeders and with the bluebirds for the mealworms, and the house sparrows are going crazy in there now. He's just getting really frustrated, and it's just that stretch right now with so many babies out and around. I told him that my peanut feeder it seems to be a place that all my woodpeckers and chickadees and titmice can continue to come without getting harassed. But in my tube feeders where I have medium sunflower chips, oh my gosh, they drain that thing in less than a day. And it's mainly the house finches and the house sparrows. It's just a frustrating time. It's going to pass. I mean, everything. I have people this time of year that they just give up and they start feeding again back in September. The grackle and the red-winged blackbirds, those tend to move out in late August. They tend to move out into fields, farm fields, and then, of course, later down to the Gulf states. And so it gets better by then. But nature's bounty is getting ready to kick in, and all the natural seeds and grasses and berries and things. So the bird feeders are going to get slow. We call it the September slowdown, but it's really worse in October. But that's going to happen too. So I understand the frustration. 4 eggs in the third bluebird nest of the year, 6 in the house wren nest out back. Absolutely. And what, Kurt, I'm glad that the way you worded that made me remember I'm working on a data sheet, a nest data sheet, and it's not just for bluebird boxes. I'm making it generic for you to be able to fill in case you see like you got a robin nest on your windowsill, or you've got a cardinal nest right outside your window, or you have a woodpecker out in a tree in your yard. This is going to be like for journaling. And that way you can keep up with these nests, individual sheets, and it's going to have what to fill in, what the type of tree, how high off the ground, that information. And then, of course, if you can check it, if you can see the number of eggs that a robin has laid, there's those spaces for that, and of course bluebird boxes, So that should be finished. I like the way I've got it, and we got to get it into a format that everybody can use. But that's coming, and Kurt, with your data, you're talking about your birds. That this will be a data sheet to help everybody. Little trade feeders that stick. Yep. I love the window feeders, and for Ellie, that's a great opportunity. I mean, her mobility is not great anymore, so those window feeders are great for her enjoyment. Second bluebird nest is your fledged Tuesday, Denver. Thank you for that report. Absolutely. Shirley, I misspell a lot of stuff. I'm a product of the rural North Carolina education system, as they say. Follow up. I have had bluebirds earlier. From the empty nest. Interesting. Why they prefer that location. I wish I could tell you exactly what the difference is, but if the grass is short underneath it, the house, they feel safe in the house, they got facing the right direction. You've got to have faith in them. Hi, Deborah from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. My daughter lived in Greensboro and worked in Winston-Salem for a couple of years. All right, let's see. Andrew, I'll get on to the next bird. Still not having many hummingbirds as before. Andrew asked me just the other day, they had a really severe storm, it sounds like, in Cincinnati, 80-mile-an-hour winds. And he was asking me, could that have caused lower numbers of hummingbirds? And typically, yes, it can. I got first answer, yes, it can. But birds, have evolved with these severe storms, and they're really good at when the barometric pressure is changing, and they hunker down low and to try to home, but nothing is exactly foolproof, and so some could have died. There's no doubt about that. But hopefully, they're just out. Maybe there's an abundance of natural food, and they're taking advantage of that, or at the stage. I don't know if you've seen young yet. I would think they're maybe not young yet in your area. So, that's one thing that can happen in a severe storm and winds that high. They can lose nest, and the young can get blown out of the nest. A whole lot of things. I'm just hoping that, it's going to rebound for you, Andrew. Ariana, I don't think bluebirds agree with you about the house sparrows. They are really rough on house sparrow nesting. Third brood, bet they are fox squirrels. They are that. That's true. Yeah, North Carolina, you guys have fox squirrels there. I know in places we have them out here, but yeah, they are much longer than the gray squirrels. Good point, Rick. They used to have an influx out there. They have it under control now. At least, yeah. For many of us, the house sparrows are a real challenge, and especially for bluebird landlords and purple martin landlords. And flickers are so funny. Yeah. Flicka, 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 flicka. A pair of black-capped chickadees laid 6 eggs. Actually, I videoed. Yeah, I did see those. They were beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, and he's mentioning those Blink cameras. I posted them the other day because they're on sale again for $99.
The Blink cameras. Like Melanie's pointing out that they're on sale on what, Amazon Days or whatever they call it.
Early days.
Early days. Yep, and they're a really good deal on those Blink cameras if you want to get a pack of them and set them up. I've got to set them up on my mealworm figure right now.
I posted them on the Facebook page and on the Facebook.
I should put a link on the Facebook page in the community page for that link to the sale on those Blink cameras. So, yes, long torpedo. Wow, I boy,
gotta be
yeah, that is something. Like I said, I hope those don't pass on their genes and more of them learn to do it. We also have a downy woodpecker nest, and yep, absolutely. Yeah, they all these different. The birds are nesting in all different kind of locations, and that, like I had the crows nest in the trees right behind my house last year. They're not there this year, but I just love finding nests like that and trying to keep an eye on it. They love peanuts. Oh my! Do you have them in a peanut feeder, Jan, or are they in loose so they can get them out, or like in a tube feeder, hang out inside a peanut cage feeders? Trey attacking the sparrows from below. Funny, entertaining. Yep. I'm talking about the peanut feeders where they have to break the peanut, the mesh type. They have to break the peanuts in smaller pieces. House sparrows can negotiate those, but it's much harder for them than just being available to them. All right, there's the window feeders link. See, I noticed a sudden increase in woodpeckers, especially down here. That's probably become the babies. Yeah, they're starting to fledge now, and they'll bring those youngs in, and they'll travel in those small family groups. Absolutely. And August hummingbirds will take over. That's right. Exactly right. Especially the second half of August to the first half of September. That is the hummingbird sweet spot. That's when all the babies are out there. That's when all the adults are around. That's when the northern birds start to move down. That's, every year a customer here who in her yard just north of us, she tops out at about 100 hummingbirds in her yard in that period. First, she used to take off the first week in September every year just to stay home and fill her hummingbird feeders. And she's obviously landscaped all for them and everything. But yeah, that's the sweet spot for hummingbirds, James. They are vicious. They kill bluebirds quite regularly. I can tell you sad story after sad story. Yeah, I agree, Andrew. I think it's a little too early. Maybe in the next week or so. Peanuts in the tray. That makes more sense. Yeah. Peanut feeders right there. All right, we're going to move on to the next bird here. Actually, just for a patio camera for inside
the Blink camera.
Ground. Yeah, those Blink cameras are great.
I just posted it in the comments.
All right, let me see. I got to move on. I got the water done. I got the Orioles done. Oh, goldfinches. That's the Oriole. Removed. Now, there. That's what I was looking for. The American goldfinches. Right now, a lot of you are not seeing any females, or usually you're just seeing the males, the black wings and the black cap, because the goldfinches American goldfinches just start nesting now in July. And they do that. They're one of the few birds, like the mourning doves, that do not feed their young any insects. They regurgitate partially dissolved plant matter, and they feed that to their young. And so they wait. Their nesting is delayed for their favorite foods, which a lot of times are the grassland wildflowers, native thistles. Niger's not thistle. Believe me, that's not true. It is not thistle. So the native thistles, which are great, they really like those. And the fluffy down up at the top of the thistle bloom, they like to line their nest with that, but they eat the little seed off the end of that. And so what happens now, July, no females for a while, and then late in the month, and then in early August, they'll start bringing in their babies. And you'll have the adult males that are bright yellow with the black cap and the black wings, and you got these females, and then you'll have the young birds, which are more greenish in color. Some people mistake them for pine siskins in the fall, late summer, fall. Too early for siskins in this area for sure, but the babies are then of course you'll know them because they'll be begging for food. That's easy, and they'll bring them into the feeders so they can tend them. So know that's going to be happening with your goldfinches coming up, and then September, October, goldfinches almost totally disappear from your feeders, and everybody panics. Where are my goldfinches? Where am I going? When are they coming back? When are they going to come back? Well, they are out there taking advantage of the buffet line and nature's bounty out there, and they will return back to the feeders typically around the time of the first frost in your area. So it just depends on the amount of native food. We've had a fairly wet summer, so there's going to be a lot of native food available for them. So they may be a little later coming back to feeders, maybe not until December, but usually it's by early November they start to come back in. All right. Amazing pictures down. Yeah, that's right. Passing the food to their babies. Absolutely. What is this one too? Amazon for the cameras.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, coneflower. You're right, Kurt. This is the time of year when the feeders in the backyard are dead, but the coneflowers in our whole front yard were really busy because the goldfinch is taking advantage of that echinacea. Native flowers, they are key. And that is one of the things that I have next to talk about. Planting natives. Thank you, Kurt. Great transition. Our native plant sale is coming up September 6th, whatever that
6th.
Saturday is. I think it's 6th. And it's time now to really be planning what you want to buy and plant for. And the fall's a great time to plant native wildflowers. And you can pre-order from them and the Missouri Wildflower Nursery. They'll have your order ready when they come. You just pick up the tray and you're on your way. But we'll have plants to sell out in front of the store like we always do. But the native wildflowers are so. I mean, I had a lot of this blue star in my yard at the old house, and it not only does it bloom beautifully with the color the blue flowers, but in the fall it has a beautiful fall color up and down that side of our house that I really, really like. So believe me, natives are certainly the way to go. All right. You're welcome, Carrie. Thank you. And glad you're back.
To say like, share, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Ellie hadn't chimed in with her message to don't forget to like the videos and share them. Comments always help. We'll be on in another couple of weeks, and again the wildflowers here. I'm hoping to have Mary on in 2 weeks. The native plant lady who's been on with me a couple of times now. We're planning another video, and hopefully it'll be in 2 weeks live, and be ready with your questions and learn a lot of native wildflowers. We're going to try to do a kind of a broad group of natives that should be appealing to most of you all across the country. Now, one of the things I want to talk, and I wanted to transition this with water, and that is for you guys in the Southwest, the monsoon season is coming, and that is the best times you can go bird watching in the state of Arizona and New Mexico down there is in August. That is considered the monsoon season, and so that's when a lot of desert flowers bloom, and it's also post nesting dispersal. So some of these great hummingbirds in northern Mexico, northwest Mexico, and down there in Arizona and New Mexico, that area is when you want to go. If you want to see a lot of different hummingbirds in this country, that's the time to go. Yes, it's warm, but you can bird watch up in higher elevations. Not so bad. This is a blue-throated mountain gem. This is a huge woodpecker. This bird is as big as a swallow. And we've seen those in Arizona every time I've ever bird watched them down there in southeast Arizona. And again, in that this time of year with the monsoons coming, this is a great time to see these and others. The other one that's that big, I can put this in there. This is the Rivalese hummingbird. I used to call it the magnificent hummingbird, but that purple forehead and that glowing green gorget, and really, really impressive large hummingbirds. But for you guys out west, you got that to look forward to. That season's coming. and you'd be on the lookout. It's a great time to go down there when you're looking for rare hummingbirds like Lucifer's hummingbirds and plain cap starthroats and barrel-line hummingbirds. Some of these birds that are very hard to find in North America. That monsoon season down there in that part of the country is the best time to find them. So they just threw that in there. The bird watching tip, kind of people have been asking me about where are some of my favorite bird watching spots. Well, Southeast Arizona, folks. I love it. It is absolutely fantastic. Ramsey Canyon, Madeira Canyon, Miller Canyon. There's so many great birding spots down there. So if you're in that area, you can travel down that part of the world. I highly recommend it. Let's see. And then swallows. Another thing that's coming here in this late in the season is all the different swallow species. This is a tree swallow, but also barn swallows and the rough-winged swallows and bank swallows and purple martins. This is getting to that season where they're young or starting to fledge, and they'll start gathering up in large numbers at area lakes and wetlands. And it's a great time of year to see a whole bunch of swallows in the next couple of months before they make it to South America. So be on the lookout for the swallows, and they're moving. All right, let's see. Where was I? Our pollinator garden is very busy now. Yep, 3 different. You're doing it right. Food, water, and shelter, and you're providing those. And the pollinators, it's so frustrating. The conservation community, we've worked so hard to try to educate and turn some old practices around. And the monarchs, the monarch migration right up the I-35 corridor here is so huge that we try to get them to not mow the milkweed during the migration, wait till after the monarchs have taken advantage of all that, and they still come through and just mow it all down right at a crucial time for them. So believe me, your pollinator gardens are hugely important, not just monarchs, but all pollinators. Yes, ma'am.
I'm just going to go through it real quick.
Love to get a hit the Sonoran Desert once. Oh man, it is. I love it. You're right. That's one of my favorite places. If somebody said, if you could get on a plane and jump and go anywhere, the bird, Southeast Arizona would be my answer almost every month of the year. And obviously it's great at certain times, but to me it's always good. All right, we returned from Ireland to find our prairie really in bloom. We had some good rains while you were gone, Carrie. That doesn't surprise me that the blooming really is showing off.
This is funny.
Sophie says, "Mac."
She wants to spin forth there.
Jack Russell, baby. I love it. So, had to say that. All right, I love it. We're dog people. My hilltop peanut feeder gets mockingbirds, crows, cardinals. I try not
to feel
real high. I agree. Yeah, they will. And a lot of those will get buried, surely. So that's why I don't put too many, especially end-shell peanuts out at a time. But it's one of the few things that will attract crows. People ask me about crows. End-shell peanuts are something they will, because they take them off and store them. You see it here. So many bees. That's great. We need those bees.
Is Kurt going to post some pictures?
Good. My guess is we may have some Kurt pictures in 2 weeks with
the
Mary.
Wildflowers.
Yep. Wildflower garden.
Well, that's from mine on Facebook.
Oh, on Facebook. If you're Facebook friends with him, I'm sure you could see him. There's Ellie with her thumbs up reminder. Thank you, Ellie. Absolutely. That means a lot. It helps the algorithm. We just made my Yep. I want to go to Scotland. I'd love to go to Ireland too, but I really want to go explore Scotland. That's the land of my forefathers. So absolutely. All right. I always like to do a creature feature for every one of these Wildbird updates. And tonight, I don't think I've done bobolink before. If I have, excuse me, but I couldn't find it. But the bobolink, it is, I don't know if you've seen one or not. They are members of the blackbird family. I always called them skunk birds. They have a striking black and white pattern on their back, and they have the yellow nape on the back of the head. This is the male, and on the right is the female. And you know how red-winged blackbirds and males and females look nothing alike? Very true of bobolinks as well. Sexual dimorphism at its best right there. She has to sit on the nest, and the bobolinks are grassland birds. And it's kind of funny here in Missouri, they're from here north in the glaciated plains north of the Missouri River. You can find bobolinks in big flocks and quality grasslands, and even some pastures too. But they nest there. They're unfortunate victim of haying the pastures early. If they haven't been able to pull their nest off and get the young fledged, then if farmers come and cut the hay and round it up, we lose a lot of bobolinks and times like that. There's a famous case study we learned about in college about the timing of bobolinks when they came through the Gulf Coast states. They were decimating rice crops down there, and they wanted to institute a program to kill them, millions of them, going to kill millions of them. And finally, a compromise was reached, and they were taught that if they would just plant their rice like 2 weeks early, and instead of where they did, that the rice wasn't in condition to eat. So when the bobolinks came through, just kept right on going. They didn't decimate their rice crop. Their rice did just fine, and everybody was happy. And that was, and the other answer was to kill millions of birds. And so the bobolinks are great. Where's my phone? I was going to play the song for you because their song, a little bit like R2D2, if you're a Star Wars fan. And I've heard many people say, well, it sounds like they got metal in their mouth and they're trying to say something really, really fast. So here's the bobolink call. And if you've got, grasslands near you, especially up north, you have a good chance to find them. They're funny. I love them, and they a lot of times you'll hear them out in the tall grass, and you won't see them, and you just got to be patient. And then all of a sudden, especially a male, will fly up and go across maybe, and then you catch him in flight. And then if you're lucky, he'll land on a fence or land on a top piece of vegetation, sing, and you get to see him. Dunn Ranch Nature Conservancy property, about an hour and a half north of us here, has tons of them in the summer. They're one of the more common nesting birds out there in the quality grasslands. So bobolinks, member of the blackbird family. The name comes from that blah, 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 voice of theirs, bobolink, as people thought it sounded like. So that's where they got that name. So beautiful birds. The one worth going out and looking for in the nesting season. Of course, they spend the winters. They're tropical migrants, so they go south in the winter and they come back through. For us, they pass through here typically about the first week of May. I remember coming into work one morning in North Carolina at the game lands I worked at, and I pulled into the headquarters building, and there were hundreds upon hundreds of male bobolinks all over everything. They were on the roof of the building, they were on the fences, they were on the tractors, they were just a huge migrating flock of that, and that's very typical. Usually those males pass through first, and the females come through later, and that huge flock of those bobolinks was quite a sight to see. So worth the bird looking for and learning about.
Yeah.
Where am I here?
I think right there, talking about purple martins.
Okay. Purple martins gathering at on the Outer Banks. That's right. That's that time of year. You can see them around wet areas like that. Up for here, it's like Los Bluffs National Wildlife Refuge was a shallow wetland. Oh my gosh, they'll be covered in swallows and martins at times. Tons of insects, and they're just swooping low over there and eating it up.
This one.
Has anyone ever seen a whippoorwill? I have, definitely. I have, of course, I've had them all night in a campsite in Boy Scouts, sitting on a tent near us and keeping us awake all night. But I've doing vegetation sampling in woodlands, walking through woods, and I've kicked them up off the ground, didn't know they were there, almost stepped on them, had them fly or through right up from under my feet. But they're hard to see. I mean, they're not nocturnal birds, and unless they're sitting out in the open, We had a Chuck Will's widow that was sitting up on a fence in the open one night, and it showed Melanie that, and she said, "My God, his whole face opens." They're like, "What? Oh!" And yep, David. All right.
All right. It's just thank yous.
Thanks for the info about. Yeah, absolutely. Merlin has picked them up. Before I was wondering, yeah, you should have them up there in grasslands where you're going to look for them. And they like alfalfa is a very popular crop that if you got fields that has alfalfa in them, you can find them in there. But the key is riding around slowly in the country where these hay fields are, and with your windows down and listen for that song. And if you hear that sound, a Merlin picks it up, pull over, be safe, but watch, because again, eventually they're going to fly up and fly back down, and hopefully they'll land on a fence by there. That's how you find bobolinks for sure, Lisa.
That's it.
Yeah. Dunn Ranch is a place to go in this area. Now they really nest pretty close to Kansas City if you can find them that they don't hay the fields too soon. They'll try to nest and then maybe get run off. But yeah, from Kansas City north, we can find them. But Kansas City south, pretty much only in migration. So, all right, guys, get back to here. Thank you guys so much for tonight. It is always, these programs are always fun. And we thank you for your participation. You live in the country. All right. Yeah, you have a good chance to find them out there. Use Merlin. He should be able, the Merlin should be able to pick that bird up pretty well. No doubt. Well, July, hot month, help the birds, be patient. If you give up on feeding because of all the baby birds and stuff, I understand that. It is frustrating, but the bluebirds need those mealworms. Make sure you're providing that. But more importantly, make sure you got water. If you've got water and native plants, your hummingbirds are going to be happy there, and the water will help a lot of birds along. So it is always a pleasure. Thank you. Sophie's not here to say goodbye, but I'm sure she's sad that we're going. But you're welcome, Lou. Jan, thank you as always. Thank you, Jen. Water. What do they call me? Captain Water. Water is one of my nicknames, I guess, now. So absolutely, it's the key to life. Carrie, thank you. We'll see you in a couple of days, and I'm anxious to see that list of birds from Ireland. Absolutely. Guys, until next time, let's talk birds.